Hello, Professor Harmeyer. Matt Eder. I am going to read through my PowerPoint presentation for Methods and Strategies Notebook, final assignment. Slide number 1, Universal Design for Learning Strategies. The 5 strategies I chose were token economy, which is use of tokens rewarded as reinforcers that can be exchanged for items or experiences of value to the learner. Behavior contracts, a method used to give control and equity in positive behaviors to aid in independent positive choices in the classroom. Assistive technology, equipment utilized to increase the independent functioning of students with disabilities. KWL charts, a means of allowing students to express prior learning related to current subject matter by listing what I know, what I want to know, and what I learned. And accessible educational materials, learning materials that are able to be easily converted and used by a wide range of students with different abilities. Now, UDL barriers and tips. There are many possible barriers to different aspects of universal design for learning. One would think that a concept called universal design for learning would be all-encompassing, but it is not. Universal design for learning, or UDL, does not refer to a one-stop shop for a strategy that will work across environments for all learners. Instead, it refers to the attempt at striving for that ideal and, in the process, discovering the most inclusive and beneficial strategies for different learners. It is a process of trial and error. An adaptive technology for holding a writing utensil might be suited for right-handed writers, but an early learner who is nonverbal may struggle to communicate that they are left-handed. A KWL chart may trigger a learner with anxiety that feels they do not have as much prior learning as their peers. The most important thing to remember when using UDL is to watch reactions and remember that not every answer works for every difficulty. Reading strategies. My 5 strategies. Phonemic awareness, teaching the basic sounds so that they may be used to sound out whole words. Fluency, developing fluency in reading allows for automatic decoding of words when reading. Story mapping, which is diagramming a story's content, like settings, characters, etc., and it increases awareness in story construction. Reading buddies is a method of using peer modeling between younger and older readers to engage the younger readers in achieving more fluent literacy. And scaffolded silent reading, which is a strategy of teaching more difficult vocabulary before increasing reading demands using visuals and activities to pre-teach. The barriers and tips. Strategies can often be difficult to manage, even when they are an excellent teaching tool. For example, when using the Reading Buddy strategy, a young reader may be intimidated by the abilities of the older reader instead of being inspired. This could lead to an avoidance-related behavioral outburst. Other strategies may be difficult for a teacher to use as well. Phonemic awareness teaching can often prove very difficult with early readers who have not yet properly developed appropriate pronunciation and may cause confusion in the teacher, which then triggers confusion and frustration in the reader. A tip for overcoming intimidation in reading buddies would be to examine the personalities of the younger and older readers to appropriately match buddies. Writing strategies, my 5 strategies. Pre-writing. The strategy involves brainstorming thoughts and facts before forming them into an outline or formal writing. The cover, copy, compare method. A student first studies a list of words regarding spelling and then covers them with a paper and attempts writing them from memory. Graphic organizers allow for learners to map out thoughts and ideas in a coherent, structured manner for ease of transition into paragraph or story writing. Writing prompts are a tool to shape the writing topic for a learner to practice appropriate structure in writing. And then far point and near point copying. This method of teaching handwriting aids the learner by the teacher modeling the handwriting at the front of the room on chalkboard, dry erase board, whatever, while the learner also references a copy on their desk while practicing handwriting. The barriers and tips for writing. Writing encompasses so many subtopics: spelling, handwriting, and sentence structure. In the case of handwriting strategies like near and far point copying, limitations in fine motor functioning could derail any learner. In spelling, undiagnosed dyslexia could cause significant frustration for any learner. And in structuring sentences, learners with focusing issues may lose their topic while writing and write about a completely unrelated topic altogether. These barriers can discourage a learner and cause some students with disabilities to become disenfranchised with their education and writing abilities. Now, being familiar with the signs for diagnosable reading difficulties like dyslexia will increase the chances of recognizing and developing abilities to overcome them before a student becomes disenfranchised. Math strategies. Estimation with rounding. By teaching how to round up and round down with larger numbers, students will more easily be able to make estimations in math and meet their standards. Manipulatives. Early learners will benefit from the use of manipulatives to count physically while beginning to conceptualize number sense. Organizing by size. Organizing objects by size can aid in conceptualizing size as measurement and the basic foundations for geometry. The gradual release of responsibility method, the I do, we do, you do. Using this strategy in math increases understanding systemically as learners see a concept demonstrated, practice it together, and attempt it individually. And then number 5 is derived facts. In multiplication, a student who knows that 6 times 6 equals 36 knows that adding another 6 will give them 6 times 7 equaling 42. Barriers and tips. Barriers in using some of these strategies can be numerous. In order to appropriately learn math, the ability to conceptualize must be present. Some learners with disabilities either lack this ability or must work harder than their peers to do so. Manipulatives, while useful for many age groups and abilities, can easily be used inappropriately for students unable to focus. The use of derived facts can be curtailed by a fundamental lack of previous knowledge. That is, a student cannot build on a foundation if they do not have one. Appropriate understanding of a learner's ability level will help solve problems due to lacking foundational knowledge in all subject areas, not just math. Transition strategies. Parent-teacher conferences. Meeting with teachers to maintain their understanding of their child's achievements with face-to-face communication and problem-solve any issues. Homeschool communication. Maintaining an open-door policy regarding connecting with parents will allow for increased communication and assistance with any issues that may arise in transition. Exploring options. Some parents may be unprepared for the transition of their learner, and preparing and presenting their options with their learner can help keep the family on a positive track. Self-advocacy. Teaching a student to advocate for themselves will help the learner support their own wishes regarding their future. And creating a timeline. Once a transition plan is chosen, creating a timeline with the student and family will help guide them in what steps need taken when to prepare for a successful transition. Barriers and tips. Now, with some students, apathy can be the largest barrier to any strategy. Apathy from an uninvolved parent can lead to an unsuccessful transition, or a transition that is not geared towards the learner's own plans for their future. Apathy in the student can lead to a failure of plans. For example, if Jimmy does not prioritize his college applications, he may miss the deadlines for enrollment. Now, apathy can be overcome by appropriate utilization of self-advocacy by a student. If Jimmy was actualizing his own dream of going to the University of St. Francis, he might prioritize college applications despite his apathy about applying to his second and third choice schools. Social studies and science strategies. Number 1, thematic teaching. Whereas in math, with building on foundational concepts, in many life sciences, thematic teaching or unit planning can allow for scientific inquiry along many aspects of a whole topic. So, for example, the theme is solar system, and each lesson deals with a different planet or celestial object. Number 2, essential questioning. By using prepared essential questions, a teacher can differentiate instruction while examining comprehension of the students. Models. Not just modeling a skill, but having a physical model that learners can examine aids in instruction of unique aspects of life sciences. We all saw that DNA model in our 9th grade biology, I'm sure. Inquiry-based instruction. This framework allows for learners to independently explore ideas being facilitated by the instructor through scientific inquiry. And multicultural learning. Teaching using exotic materials, songs, foods, and lifestyles from different cultures aids in understanding differences in social studies lessons for early learners. Now, barriers and tips. Teaching using multicultural tools can be difficult for some young learners to grasp appropriately. If little Jimmy in his school's behavior education room has never left his hometown, he may not view multicultural knowledge as a valuable and may act out to avoid the lessons. If Billy has difficulty comprehending a section of his thematically taught unit, he may not have appropriate foundational knowledge to succeed in comparing aspects from different lessons in a formative assessment. Multicultural teaching can be very enjoyable and enriching, but must be taught in a culturally sensitive manner. The times of making feathered headdresses for children around Thanksgiving is no longer appropriate activity. Executive functioning strategies. Organization skills or sorting. One method of teaching organization skills, sorting, is proven to be foundational in organization skills in children. Metacognition. Using language designed to aid a learner in voicing the questions inside their own head help increase executive functioning skills. Time management. Using visual schedules in a classroom improves a student's awareness of time and their daily schedule. Environmental support. Creating a classroom environment that is well organized and clutter-free acts as a constant prompt for learners to organize themselves and their environment. And then check-ins. Interaction with the teacher offers discreet and often fun support for younger learners struggling with executive functioning. Barriers and tips. Some children can be so distracted due to their undiagnosed or untreated ADHD that typical executive functions are a deep struggle. If a student's home life is unstructured, then functioning in an organized, structured environment may be a difficult concept to grasp. A student who spends his evenings in a home with chaotic clutter everywhere may have a more difficult time organizing his desk, cubby, or backpack to function in his classroom. Executive functions can be taught in a fun way by engaging the learners in building the daily schedule on the bulletin board and filling it in on a Google Doc or on their Chromebook, and it'll engage them in active time management. RTI, response to intervention strategies. Posting rules and expectations. By having clear rules and expectations posted and incentives, engage Tier 1 students. Reinforcement schedule. PBIS method for behavior support can be used as a token economy for items and activities desired by Tier 1 students to increase their RTI. Charting. Behavior charts that go home with students help take ownership for their behaviors. Social skills groups. Peer-driven social skills work in small assigned groups develops appropriate response to intervention. And then counseling referrals. Referring a student for counseling if they continue to struggle in Tier 3 will offer the support that they may need to respond appropriately. Barriers and tips. Starting with PBIS can present its own difficulties as a Tier 1 response to intervention. Students must be made to quickly see the benefits of the program before they take equity in it. If Billy never sees a reward, he may view it as unattainable and never develop the appropriate responses. Make sure that the first few weeks in a new program like PBIS use a lower schedule of reinforcement to allow for students to fully understand the benefit of their positive behavioral choices. IEP and case conference strategies. Open door. Before an IEP can be written, significant amounts of information from the parents is needed. By having an open door policy, communication happens with more ease. Interpreters. Using an interpreter is key to gathering appropriate information in case conferences when families have English as a second language or no English at all. Providing tools. In an IEP, some provisions may be made to offer assistance in the home when applicable to aid parents in feeling supported. Review. Reviewing and discussing the student's programming frequently will assist in the appropriate execution of programs from the IEP. And progress reporting. Frequent reporting of progress to parents will help in developing future goals in other case conferences for updated IEPs. Now, barriers and tips. In the initial screening and pre-referral processes, some parents can refuse to believe that their learner may need special education services. Despite eligibility concerns. This becomes exceedingly difficult to appropriately communicate regarding the needs of the student and in developing behavior plans and other goals. A parent may say, I was the same way when I was his age and I turned out fine. Always encourage parents to bring supports with them or other providers or adults that may provide different insights into the needs of the child to make a more well-rounded and inclusive IEP during case conferencing. Technology strategies. PowerPoint, like I'm using right now, And other software programs are excellent methods that can be used to provide visuals, videos, and outlines of difficult concepts to aid in learning. Speech-to-text programs can be effectively used as a strategy to assist students who are unable to type effectively in class and builds equity in learning. Augmented writing. Some learners are unable to grip a writing utensil appropriately, and through the use of assistive technologies may be able to fix the difficulty through a simple tool as a strategy. Interactive whiteboards. These tools are an excellent method for modeling in lessons or presenting information, as an older chalkboard may have helped in the past. And ebooks. Ebooks are an effective method of reference material in the classroom that may otherwise be too cumbersome for a student or difficult to search through. I mean, not really operate. You get it. That concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for this past semester, and take care.